Hello, everyone. Welcome to Joe's Chat. And today I'm delighted to introduce to you a lovely friend of mine who's become a friend of mine who's helped me with my CIC company. Her name is Kelly. This chat might be triggering to some ladies because we're going to talk about miscarriage and what Kelly's been through and how it led her to where she is now. So it's an amazing journey she's been on. So without further ado, I'll introduce her now. I'll bring her into the studio.
Hello.
Hi, Kelly. So this is Kelly. She's known as Kexx because she's an artist, and well, I'll let her tell you about who she is.
No worries.
Over to you, Kelly.
Thank you, Joe. So yeah, hi, I'm Kexx, community artist. That's what I'm widely known as. I've got a YouTube channel and stuff about being a community artist and setting up CICs. And that's how I met Joe, because she came to me through Entrepreneurcity about her CIC. So, and I was so interested in what she did because it resonated with me because I was at that perimenopausal stage. So when she came along with her amazing Facebook group, I was like, oh, this is so cool. So yes, so that's how we've become friends.
Oh, thanks for that. And I'm so glad we did because, you've helped me a lot with my company. And I find you just so interesting to talk about. And when you started talking to me about what you went through, with your miscarriage and fibroids, I think it was, did you say you had fibroids? Yeah. So that journey is going to resonate with so many ladies in my group. And what you went through and how you come to the decision that you came to, I think is pretty awesome. So can I take you back to before perimenopause and what you went through then?
Yeah, sure. So I met my husband, now husband, when I was 40. So prior to that, I hadn't had children. So I was 40, didn't have children, met what is now the love of my life, and he's amazing. We actually fell pregnant naturally. Just we weren't trying. We only just got together. I honestly didn't think that, I was particularly that fertile. So it came as a bit of a shock. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. It's like everything has been given to me at once. And we were absolutely over the moon. And then sadly, I miscarried when I was about 7-8 weeks. It was a very hard experience, as all miscarriages are. With mine, I had a bit of bleeding and I went in for the scan. And those of you who've been through a similar thing, it's absolutely horrific because you have to lie in that chair and you're told that the baby has stopped growing. So it's absolutely devastating. And I had a lot of questions. I know that obviously miscarriages happen, of course. I know they happen a bit more later in later life, but they kept mentioning after I had a few scans afterwards about fibroids. And so I was like, well, is this why? You're saying you can see fibroids. Is this why? And my GP actually said the words, I don't know anything about fibroids. So I just didn't really get any answers about it at all. No referrals. I don't know. I was left quite confused. I knew that certain things that you can eat make fibroids get bigger and smaller. I knew things like soya, for instance, can make them bigger. And I had a couple of experiences where I'd taken some herbal remedies for emotional regulation during, like, just before my period, because I've always been quite hormonal, and coming up to perimenopause it got worse. And I'd taken some stuff in Holland and Barrett to help with fertility and to help with hormones and regulation and stuff. And it made me have the most horrific period. Like, we're not just talking a bit of pain, we're talking like I was in labor for 2 hours, where I felt like I needed to vomit, sit on the toilet. I couldn't lie still. I had to just like rotate. I was like having to rock back and forward. I was in horrific pain.
Sorry, Kelly, was this before they told you you had fibroids or after?
Yeah, so this is before just before the miscarriage that had happened. So I knew that I'd had an issue and I didn't know why. And then, as I said, I had the miscarriage, and then they said, oh, it's fibroids. So those things all tied in.
Right.
So it's like, okay, so we know now I've got fibroids. We know that was why I couldn't have any kind of Holland and Barrett style soya related, anything for fertility or anything. So we knew I had them, but there were no answers. Anyway, so then I started a bit of a fertility journey. I wanted to obviously get pregnant again, but I knew I couldn't go to Holland and Barrett and take the natural remedies and do all of that. So I was like, okay, I looked into IVF. I found the whole IVF thing quite triggering. Like to go back in and have a scan, I found it really, really triggered my trauma from the miscarriage. So sorry, it's a plane going overhead. I live by a naval base. So I found that very triggering. I didn't really like the idea of IVF. I found like the whole success rate is so low as well. And again, I was asking questions about the fibroids, like, is it even worth me going forward? Is the fibroids a thing? And they said when I went for the private IVF consultation, when they did the scan, they were like, yeah, you've got fibroids. They don't think it's related. And I was like, I don't know. So I was really and ahed about it. And then after a couple of years then of trying and being unsuccessful, I just got so exhausted. And I'm sure a lot of the ladies watching this will feel the same. It's such an emotional, head F when you're going through, you're looking at your cycle every month. You think you're getting pregnant. You've got to like harass your partner during the ovulation dates. It all seems really unnatural. It's really stressful. Should you go for IVF? Is it going to be worth it? Then you've got to make more money to think you've got to save for the IVF, the financial issue with that. It's just all just felt so much. My husband has a lovely little girl that we have part-time anyway. So we have a family life anyway. So it's like, should we go through it? My partner wasn't too keen because he already has a daughter. So all of these things were like weighing on my mind. And then I started to get really, really into perimenopause. And it started to massively affect my life. I started to get very heavy periods. I had some flash periods. I don't know if any of you ladies have had this, but once I was on and this again could be related slightly to the fibroids as well. I was on a train and I was literally pulled into Bristol station. It was full of people going to a football match, right? Full, with that whole football energy, right? I'm there. I'm about to get off. I was about to go to the airport to go to Ibiza. So I had a lot of stuff with me. Luckily, I had extra clothes with me. And I had the most whoosh experience. I already knew I was on my period. I had a pad on, right? And it still whooshed to the extent that it went all down my jeans, visibly, all down my jeans, went right through my denim and everything, like very noticeably. It was like a complete flood. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I just like took my hoodie off, tied it around my waist, ran to the toilet. And like I said, you got this whole situation where it was so busy. And that was my first flash period. I had another one in the Bullring in Birmingham in the shopping centre. Similar thing happened to me. And the periods just got out of control. And not just, I had a couple of flash ones. They were generally becoming heavier. But also my hormones were just raging the week before and during. So it's like, kind of affects you almost for 2 weeks. I was so snappy, irritable. I felt like if anybody was, I don't know, did anything that was a bit stupid or anything, I had like no tolerance for it. And it was really bad. And I was obviously trying to control it, but my husband was noticing it, especially like, if we go out and like you have a service person that's like gives you crap customer service or something, I'm just like wanting to like rage at them. And my husband's like, you need to calm down, let me deal with it. And so I was like, I can't go around in life like this. Like,
did he know why? Was he aware of what was going on with you?
I was telling him I'm on my period and I just feel like this. So he knew, and I did say to him, look, this is perimenopause. Like, luckily I was a bit aware, but I can totally see how some people don't know, and then their husbands don't know, and how people end up getting divorced and all sorts.
Yeah. Well, that happened to me. We almost divorced because of it, especially when you're like late 30s, early 40s, because so many women think, well, it's ladies in their 50s that go through this, because they don't know that it's that 10 years before, 15 years before even sometimes, that you get all those symptoms. So if you're not aware, it can be horrendous.
It's lucky because of you, I was sort of aware. And because so I was able to say to him, but the interesting thing was he would say to me, I'm scared that you're going to change, because I kept saying to him, this is what it's going to be like this is going to, like buckle up, basically. This is what we've got to deal with. And he was like, and he said to me, luckily, like he was able to verbalize it. Not all men can. He was like, I'm scared of you changing. I'm like, I don't, and that made him feel anxious.
Wow.
So it really impacts our partners as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So you can imagine
him being aware. Yeah, like
you
can imagine people who aren't aware.
Yeah. So it's like anyway, the last straw was a couple of months ago, and we had some bad customer service with our gym membership. We were in the gym, and Nick was like, "You were so rude." He was like, "I wanted to run out." And I was like, "I know, but she was so stupid. Like, how could I?" And I was like, "But I also know it's because of me. I just feel like I literally can't cope." I said, "I can't describe how I feel." And he's like, "You've got to do something about it." He said, "Because like it makes me anxious." And I was like, "Yeah, I've got to do something about it." So I phoned about getting the Marina Coil, and I spoke to a really good doctor. I was lucky I had a good doctor. And I told her everything about all of it. And she was like, because I was umming and ahhing, and she was like, "No, you absolutely need to get the coil." She said, she said, the fibroids are going to get bigger and you're going to need an operation, which is like a cesarean. And I know a friend who had that operation and it was horrendous. So she was like, "You need to get it because it will get rid of the fibroids. It will regulate all of your hormones because it will get rid of your periods. And so you need to just do it." And so I'd heard that the Marina Coil was very good for perimenopause because it gets rid of those periods. So the periods become unmanageable at the end. You get the Marina Coil, it gets rid of the periods, so you at least get that out of the way. So I went to have it done because obviously then this was a big thing, because I was like, okay, if I go and get this done, this also means I need to let go of having a baby and becoming a mother. I have to let this go. So it took me a good couple of months to mentally prepare for it, to let it go. And I had to basically just talk to myself and be like, do you know what? Like I could go through, okay, yes, I could try, I could get a baby, wonderful. Of course, that's amazing, blessing. But also I could, have a baby and be hormonally horrendous during this whole period. Then I've got a small baby and I'm perimenopausal. I've got all of this happening at the same time. It's hard on my partner. He's not fully on board. Also, I could go through more miscarriages. Very likely I could waste money with IVF, more miscarriages, like just the whole thing of it. And it's like, do you know what? We've just got married. We could just enjoy life, and I could just get the coil, let go of the idea of having a baby, accept what I've got, which is wonderful. I have a wonderful husband, I have a wonderful stepdaughter. I could just accept it. I love my job, my career, I can travel, I could accept it and just go forward. So I have come to a place now where I'm happy with that decision. So I went and got the coil. It was horrendous, just to let your viewers know. So I went and had the coil, and a very interesting experience, because she said that she thinks that when she touched my cervix, my body went into a state of shock. And I was horrifically nauseous. I couldn't stand up. I was dizzy. I was sweating. And I went into a state of horrific waves of pain. This isn't normal, although it is very painful. But she thinks that my body triggered a memory of the miscarriage. So after I had the miscarriage and I found out, obviously, that the baby hadn't grown, about a week later, when I was passing the miscarriage, I was rushed into hospital. My body had gone into shock, and it had a horrific reaction. And we think that that when obviously the uterus lets go of all of everything from the miscarriage, it got caught on my cervix and my body went into shock. And that's why I was rushed into hospital and they had to pull it out. So that, because I had that miscarriage experience with that horrific pain and my body going into that shock state, again, is this to do with the fibroids? Did it touch the fibroids? All these questions, we don't know. Anyway, she thinks that maybe the trauma of what my body had gone through with the period had triggered this memory in my brain, which triggered this pain, the shock pain reaction again when I had the coil. So it was absolutely horrendous. Now, I'm not going to lie. If I'd known it would be that horrific, me having the coil, I probably would have like I don't know that I would have gone through it. I'm so glad I did, because immediately I've just had a period and I've not had any of that feeling. I just feel like I can deal with the world again. Already, and I'm only, and she reckons, obviously it'll get better. I've still had a bit of bleeding with the periods, but that's going to go away over a few months. Everything should settle down. So yeah.
Well, I'm really glad that you didn't know, because although you went through that trauma again, which was horrific, and you wouldn't wish that on anyone, you wouldn't be where you are now, would you, if you hadn't have had the coil?
And it's
now,
8 years as well now.
Yeah, 8 years. I mean, you just breezed through that whole story there as if it was water off a duck's back. So I want to drag you back, if you don't mind, to when you made that decision of, you weighed up the pros and cons of maybe trying for a baby and all those things you went through, and you came to the fact that, okay, I can accept that I'm not going to have children now and enjoy my life. You made it sound like it was quite simple.
Yeah, it wasn't. I cried. There was lots of times I cried thinking about it. So yeah, absolutely. And I talked to friends and I cried. Yeah, it was really hard.
It was really hard. Are you all right? Are you okay to talk about it? Bless you. I really appreciate you talking about it, because it's going to help so many other ladies as well. So I really appreciate that, Kelly.
I think what you've got to think is, even though it's really hard to let go of that dream, you've got to think of what your life is, and you can only achieve so much. And I think as women, we're made to feel like Wonder Woman, aren't we? We're made to feel like, we have to have it all.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of women beat themselves up when they realize they can't always have it all, or if they try to have it all, it just brings a lot of stress on. Did you and your husband sit down and weigh it up together, or was this mainly your choice because he'd already had a daughter?
He was already like, I just don't think it's worth it. And for him, it wasn't, because he already has a child. So for him, he'd already weighed it up in his mind. And from his mind, he was like, I've got a daughter. I have her part-time, which means I also have, the luxury of having those date nights in the week, and we have this great life, great marriage, travels. So he'd already weighed it up in his mind, and to him, it already wasn't worth it. But he was willing to go through any IVF or anything for me because of that. So it was really for me to weigh it up. It had to be my decision. But having a partner who'd kind of already weighed it up obviously is going to influence your decision. But I also knew I had to make that right decision for me, because if you go and you make the decision for your part, like you think, oh yeah, he doesn't want one, so I won't. But then you have to live with that. And then you don't want to resent the husband either. So you have to really want it. It had to be me. I had to know that I was okay to let the dream go. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Bless you. And thank you for that. And the fact that now you have a beautiful stepdaughter. I think, because a lot of the ladies that I know who have gone through IVF and it's not worked, and they've had to then go down another decision of adoption and stuff. So I guess that possibly took away that thought.
It did. So I knew I wasn't going to have to go down, obviously, that road. And, I know a lot of us have our fur babies as well. And my dog is very important to me. Yeah. And I think I've spoken to a lot of people. I know people think, well, a dog is never the same. Of course it isn't. But I think having pets really gets out some of your maternal instinct. So I think pets, and we're going to be getting a new puppy soon as well. So I think having pets really, really helps. Obviously you have other purpose. Like, I know that I have other purpose in life, that yes, a mother is one wonderful purpose, but I know there's other things I could achieve. And obviously I've got my CIC tribe. I help my CIC owners who are doing all this amazing work in our communities. So like, I've got so much opportunity there as well. And I was always living with the fear I could end up almost, having a baby. There could be all sorts of, like I said, more complications, which could ruin my life, like miscarriages and all of that. But also, there could be, I know we always have to talk about this. I know it's a difficult subject, but there can be more risk of disabilities and things with when you're older as well. And just your ability to deal with that because you're older. So it's like, it's okay. If you're young and you have a more challenging situation, you've got more energy for it. And I already know I'm not very good at losing sleep now. Once you're past like 40, it's like, I don't know if I could do it, you know, the late nights. So it's like, it's all of these things you've got to weigh up.
And the fact that you were going through perimenopause, and if it had been a traumatic time, you know, the birth and everything, it's highly likely that you possibly could have then got postnatal depression as well.
I was very aware that I've had such a rocky time with hormones. When I started my periods, asked my mother, I was a pretty terrible teenager. So, you know, hormones have always been bad. And I always knew if I probably got pregnant, I probably would have found all the hormones quite a lot.
Yeah. So I think as someone looking in, I think that decision that really aligns with you and your lifestyle, and it was probably the best decision for you. And I'm really happy that you've come to terms with it. And, you know, it's still raw because you got upset then. So it's not just like, you know, making a decision. It's the biggest decision. But you've come to terms with that, and that, you know, you're going to embrace life moving forward.
I think we just got to be aware that, like, you know, you could, you know, we don't know how long you're going to live. You know, you got to embrace life. You know, you get an illness or anything like that. I mean, my dad died when he was only, you know, 63. My mum had a heart attack when she was in her 60s. She did survive, but still, the point is, you know, you can get, you know, there are things that can happen, and I just think we don't know how long, and it's like you do need to make your life worth it and manageable. And if you put all these expectations that you have to do these things, you know, you have to be a mum, you have to have the career, you have to do all of this stuff, like, it's too much. Sometimes something just has to give, and you have to be really grateful for what you've got. And do you know what? I was in such a bad mental health place on those periods because of the hormones. To be free of that now, like, I feel so much better. So I am happy I've done it. I'm absolutely happy I've done the coil, definitely.
That's great news, because I know there's a lot of ladies in my group that are really wary about getting the coil because they hear bad things about it. I mean, and your experience triggered things from the miscarriage, you know, so
it wouldn't necessarily happen, but it does still hurt. No, there's no other way. But I think what you got to remember, what I told myself before I got in the chairs, I knew it was going to be horrific. They talk to you, so you're distracted. They try to talk to you, and then it gets to a point where you're like, and then you just got to remember that your brain, like, the thing with pain is your brain doesn't really, it puts it to the side. Like, you go through it in the moment, and then it's gone. So, like with childbirth and all of that, like, you go through it in the moment, and then it will be over, and then it is gone. And then you won't have periods. You won't have these horrific periods anymore. And all of that emotional roller coaster. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I won't have any issues now with menopause. Of course, I still could have some. But so far, so good. My doctor said, if I feel like I need it in 3 months, she said I can go back and start HRT. But I'm hoping I'm not going to need it, but see how it goes.
Yeah. So I mean, this podcast is about your experience, but just to touch on that, since you mentioned it, because your hormones are fluctuating now, and as you get older, they are going to start depleting. So if you did add HRT on top of it, that's then going to make you feel better again, because you can go through a stage where, I feel great now, but then you won't, and you'll think, the coil's not working now, but then that's because you need more estrogen, because you know, as you go through it, it will be depleting. And the benefits of HRT, not just for perimenopausal symptoms, but they're proving now brain health, bone health, heart health as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, think of those things before you think, I don't need it yet, because there's a lot more to it. The body identical HRT I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because obviously the coil's synthetic. But then again, there's a lot of negativity through the coil, because when they hear that it's synthetic, lots of ladies think back when their mums were told to not take HRT because it's synthetic and it causes cancer. Again, while we're here, I just want to poo-poo that, because even though it's synthetic, it's direct, and it doesn't go through your blood system. It just goes directly into the womb. So that takes away that fear as well. So just while we're at it, I just wanted to stress that to any ladies that are watching who are thinking about going through having a coil. Okay, so can I now backtrack to how you were feeling when you first started getting symptoms of perimenopause?
Yeah.
Before that, how you were feeling before that, when you said you'd always struggled with periods and everything.
Yeah. So I've definitely always struggled with, you know, that sort of dodgy day before your period kind of hormonal kind of moment. But it would usually be like a day before, you know, and then the period comes and it was all gone. So then nearer to the obviously as then we went up towards like perimenopause years, it's like the periods became heavier, a lot more pain. And then the hormones start to actually be in during the period week, as well as that just sort of moody day before it comes on. So they just become unmanageable. And the period pain, like I really couldn't, once like, you know, the perimenopause thing set in, there was like the day that there was the heavier day of my period. We're not talking about those times I had the flash period, those were like more random, but on an average period, I'd have to have pretty much a day off work. Like, you know, I would feel absolutely rotten and be with a hot water bottle and have no energy for a day or more. I mean, and that's a really big impact. So basically I had really chronic periods level, which a lot of, you know, women is common. And I think I'm self-employed, so I can move things around. But like, if I was in a job, I would have to have a day off work every month.
Yeah, I know, it's horrendous, isn't it? And there is talk now that they're trying to change things in the workplace, that they are allowing for perimenopause. It is getting better, but it's a very slow process. And I think there's a fine line. A lot of employers are worried that people are going to take advantage of it and say, oh, I've got my period this month, so I need a day off.
Honestly, Jo, I'm not employed. I would not be employable during this period. That's how I think. Like during Paramount, I think you need to, I know you change jobs. Yeah.
Yes,
Either you need to change jobs, change your hours, or start your own business and get out of the employment stage. Because being self-employed, it makes it so much easier to move things around and balance how you're feeling. So
ladies that have left their careers, been doing for years.
If I'd been a probation officer still, which I was 12 years ago, no way.
And not just with the pain and the periods and the brain fog and all the rest of it that comes with it. It can be debilitating for some ladies.
And how you're treated. So say you are having some of those moments, you get labelled as scatty, you know, and there's the stigma and how you're treated then as sort of the stupid woman. And you just need to protect yourself from all of that.
And educate yourself about how perimenopause can affect you, and go straight to the top. Talk to your managers, because if you've got a good manager, then managers, you know, should understand. But I have heard horror stories that, you know, women managers can be worse than male managers.
Absolutely.
To me, it's like,
absolutely, because a male manager will be like, oh, okay, yeah, fine, get that away from me. Sign her off. Whereas a woman manager will be like, I haven't had that issue. She's just this, or like, you know, if they haven't had that,
so can
I'm
you?
going, so absolutely, I could totally believe that.
Yeah, it's really scary. Well, Kelly, thank you for giving your time to us. And I really I don't hope, I know that it's going to resonate with so many women when they listen to this, and they'll take something away from it. And I think the biggest thing here is talk to your partners, talk to your husbands, embrace things, weigh things up, think of things emotionally and logically as well, like you did. And when you have come to decisions, really embrace it and move forward. And don't be scared of the coil, which is a big thing. And just, I think the support that you can have, I think just talking about it like this just really helps a lot of women open up and be accepting of how their bodies are changing, and that things can be done and things can improve, and life does go on, and we can embrace our older years and have a great life, exactly like you're doing now, Kelly. So thank you very much for your time. I really do appreciate it.
That's okay. Thank you, Jo. Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you.